Welcome to this week's episode of Seeking Wisdom, where I explore timeless truths about the minds of kings, warriors, builders, and fighters. I'm your host for over 30 years. I've led projects, mentored, coached athletes, built businesses from the ground up. Today, we're talking about principles that separate the good from the great, informed from the impact, the strong from the strategic. Because knowledge is easy to find. Let's start here. Knowledge is having the tools. Wisdom is knowing when, where, and if you should even use them. We live in an age of over-information, an endless stream of gurus, how-tos, and life hacks. That's wisdom requires time, failure, reflection, and humility. Quote, never mistake memorization for mastery. Smart people can still destroy good things. Only the wise can build something that, perfect examples of construction. A smart person can build one. A wise person can make it last. The question you got to ask yourself in this situation is, am I applying what I know or am I just collecting it? That's interesting because it comes down to knowledge. People think because they have more experience and they have more knowledge that means something. Not if you don't have the discipline to actually use it, like listening to your own advice would be a good place to start. You can have all the knowledge in the world and not the wisdom to use it. I've suffered from that greatly in my life. We're going to expand on these points a little bit of contrasting of knowledge versus wisdom. Knowledge is the horizontal breadth. Wisdom is the vertical depth. That makes perfect sense from that capacity. So it's easy for us to take in all this information. It's exactly what I'm doing for this podcast. I'm taking in Proverbs from Solomon, writings from the military. I'm taking in things from around and coalescing, which has been pretty much the story of my life, being a jack of all trades and not a master of one. Because I am breadth. I am knowledge. That don't mean I have any wisdom, which is why I'm praying every day for it. And as I'm getting a little thimbleful each day, as I ask for it and walk a path of, or try to walk a path of righteousness, I'm getting a thimbleful and a thimble. It's opening my eyes up to how ignorant I have been. There's a huge difference between wisdom and knowledge. Many people have access, but no discernment. This word keeps coming up again and again and again, discernment. This makes them dangerous to themselves and others. The ability to not discern. Wisdom is scar tissue turned into foresight. It comes from reflection, not reaction. Boy, I thought that was a pretty cool statement. I had to read that for you, and I'll repeat. Wisdom is scar tissue turned into foresight. It comes from reflection, not reaction. And I've been praying now for like the last 3 or 4 months for it. It just came to me, the word, and then it just hung in my head for some reason. So I started kind of seeking it out a little more and a little more. And as I'm starting to unravel the history behind the word of wisdom, you can't help but fall into King Solomon. Solomon's temple, David's son, one of his sons. The section in there where it's talking about his wisdom. And I'm gross right now about how I'll communicate to it. I really encourage getting it on a podcast, checking it out on Spotify. They have the Bible series and it works its way through. That's what I listen to when I'm running now. I'm working my way through audio and I'm reading it to support it. One's a Orthodox book and the other's the King James, and they are different. I'm starting to see it now, the differences between the way they word their sentences. So in Proverbs, it's too complex for my little mind, which is why I have my study guide so it can explain quite a few things on what it is. But it's a lifestyle hack. We'll talk more about that here in a minute. So we're going to segue from Solomon and Proverbs. Let's talk about a man who could have asked for anything. Wealth, power, revenge. But instead, he asked for a wise heart. Kings 1, section 1:3-9 says, give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people. That's what he wanted, discernment. He knew leadership was about judgment, not just control. That's what he wanted, discernment. It was about judgment, not just control. Judge, wisdom. So do we make the right play here? Or do we get, that's where the sin and the vices come in. Do we get angry? Do we lose control? Do we say the wrong word sequence? I shall not embarrass or embitter. Every day, live by that. If you're about to do either one of those, keep that voice in your head. Proverbs 4:7, he tells us, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. So you can have wisdom. You can see the knowledge. It's like, a lot of people are I get it guys. I'm an I get it guy. I get it. All right, I get it. You can explain something to me. I understand it. It makes sense. I get it. But do I have the wisdom? Do I have the wisdom of experience in that topic? Same thing you can run into in plumbing. You may have the knowledge of how it's supposed to be routed and what to do and these kind of things, but do you have the wisdom to actually pull it all off and then work on the fly? Practical takeaways, when we read Proverbs, it's like a leadership playbook. Proverbs 13:20, quote, "He that walketh with wise men shall be wise," end quote. This is why we're doing the podcast. Right there. So we can walk with wise men together. You guys comment in. I put out new content. I learn in the process. You find things that are good and bad. You comment in, and our community grows. This is important because we as humans, as antisocial as we may be, and they don't get any more than Alaskans. You do not get any more antisocial than Alaskans. We don't want anybody. We don't like anybody. Kind of sucks because you need people. Still need people. If I want to choose to have a company, if I want to choose to grow, if I want to choose to have people watch, you need people, and you have to accept. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise. If the people you're around, if they're less than you in life, and thou shalt not be a judge, meaning cognitively, if they're there and they're trying to better themselves, that would reach a hand out. Lend them, especially if you're in the dominant, you're a little bit sharper, you have more experience in this particular aspect, maybe you're a little stronger in this particular field, or lend a hand. But if they're not trying to better themselves, and they're fine with mediocrity, and they're fine with consistent sin, be very weary of reaching your hand out for those. The Bible talks clearly about it. Not in this verse, but this is a takeaway of wisdom and discernment. Proverbs 14:15, "The simple believeth every word. Don't be gullible. Vet your information." That was what we've talked about in a couple of the episodes. And as we grow, we're going to go, okay, where did you pull this information from? Because ultimately we want this product to be a super rock solid source of information and a consistent message of positivity. Proverbs 16-32. "He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty." Emotional control is strength. Emotional control is not making the statement back, defending yourself, whatever logic you want to give to yourself, whether it's to a spouse. Keep your inside voice in your head. If it is going to embarrass or embitter, if it's going to make them mad, or if it's going to embitter them against you for something else, don't do it. That's particularly with your kids, your family, your business associates, your co-workers. This is for everybody on planet Earth. And he that is slow to anger is better than the mighty. Emotional control. You flying off the rage because you're so passionate about whatever it is, you can't justify it as passion of you losing control. That is also a sin. There's also a whole lot of works there that go why we don't do that, because of escalation, and there's so many other factors, interpretation, it's so many factors. But what it does to your own personal cortisol levels. Emotional control. That's the ability not to say that thing back, to hold it in ourselves. It's our ability to go, I am not in the wrong here, but I'm going to be even better in this situation, and this is how I'm going to do it. Let wisdom guide your timing, your tone, and your temperament. Are you coming across intense? Are you good vibes? Are you in that middle zone? And are they pulling you out into an aggressive zone? All it takes is a cup of coffee and you could be there real quick. So wisdom teaches us, if we're in a meeting, how are we projecting ourselves? How are we communicating to the room? Are we speaking in a manner that embarrasses and embitters? Are we speaking in a manner of community teamwork? Are we sharing viewpoints? It's right side up perspective speaking. This is a critical path. Proverbs 1-5 from the King James is, "A wise man will hear and will increase learning." Solomon's wisdom came not from age, but from humility. He knew his role was bigger than his experience. So he asked God for what most kings ignore, understanding. Most kings would have went for more money so they could have more power, so they could have more troops, so they can buy more of this and do more of that. You read these morning psalms every morning, and I've read them now for a couple of years, and every day I pick something up a little different because my mind is in a different place when I'm reading the same thing. So when we read about the Proverbs, the wisdom words, that's like, it's a cheat code in a sense, but you have to be able to decipher it. You have to be able to discern. I don't have the wisdom for that. Flat out, I'm not smart enough to catch that ball of wax. That's where having a study Bible is critical. So this morning I was a highlighting fool Because where the Proverbs were at was we're talking about this morning is something that I'm actually literally going through. You really have to reflect, which is where a lot of suggestions are. Just read one a day and then read it a few times, 3 or 4 times, and that's maybe your work for the day on that proverb. If you have a study Bible, that's really helpful. That is very, very helpful. It's been a lifesaver for me because it's actually given me more depth of concept of what the Bible is. So if your Bible is not the study Bible, you're at a real position of maybe disadvantage because you can't discern the code of what the Bible's actually saying. That's why they have people that have been doing nothing but reflecting on it for thousands of years, handed down wisdom of this is the proverb. It's been literally read millions of times by a certain order, whether it's a Catholic or an interpretation at the highest, at the canon level. You know, these bishops and these folks, that is their trade craft, and they're multi-generational of this. Church goes back thousands of years. Reflection of it, I'm not smart enough to pick up on that kind of knowledge. Thank you for the study Bible, because that's what that is. The study Bible says Proverbs 23 or whatever. This is what that means. And this morning, boom, the highlighter came out. There were some really good words, and there's too much of it to be throwing into one of these in just one podcast. This is stuff that's like how to eat the elephant. A little bit over time, you know. That's what we're going to do here with Proverbs and with Psalms, because they really help. It is just like, oh, that's good advice right there, you know. So that's something that we want to think about, is the power of Proverbs, because they're no different than business. Oh yeah, okay, I get it. This is a way to live. Roger that. Proverbs 16:32. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty. Wisdom in leadership isn't being feared. It's being unshakable. So many decades have been wasted to the I'd rather be feared than loved because the fear lasts longer. It's a load of crap. You're looking over your shoulder constantly. You know you're getting robbed. You know your people are skimming off the top. You know that you've got no loyalty. You know that you're now, because of that mentality alone, that demon. Remember the devil and his 10,000. Planet Earth is literally the devil's domain. It was given to him by the big man and the demons, the 10,000. This is what we're up against, which is why we need our community to be strong. So we can go, okay, I see what he's saying here. We have to have our spiritual shielding. As that starts shielding, you start noticing better things happen. And guess what? When the bad happens, good. Those are lessons. Like Jocko would say, good. Horrible situation, things are horrible, good. What now? He just embraces every bit of it. And there's as meathead and as tough guy as that sounds, if you have true faith, these are just little obstacles of tests, and we move through them. And how did we learn from it? And we move on, but do we do it clean inside? Some tactical takeaways from wisdom over knowledge and coming into Psalms and Proverbs is do a mental inventory. Where are you acting off instinct instead of insight? And that's kind of a deep statement. I've had a chance to reflect on that for quite a bit. Acting off of instinct instead of insight. Running on autopilot, right? There's a lot of tasks we do that can be just complete autopilot. We're not advancing the ball. What happens is they go through autopilot for years. They're not advancing. They're not consistently getting better. And what I see if you're not seeking wisdom, which is the title of this podcast, and if you like it, like and subscribe here, and here. If you stop doing that, you're giving up, and complacency destroys. It is one of the bad ones. That it kills your relationships. You don't realize it. A lot of men are guilty of this one. First-hand experience. A lot of men are guilty of this. I've been around a lot of people, and this is one of the ones they're in relationships. They're not toxic. They're just good dudes doing their thing. Man, they got complacent, and years go by. Same status quo, same numbers coming in, same exact position in life, same exact amount of money, always, perpetually. This is where they say, seek wisdom. If you're seeking wisdom, you're constantly pushing the ball. That's inevitable, because if you're getting better, and that's your task, is I will get better in everything, and I'll work on it and get better at this and get better at wealth, more and more happiness, more and more fulfillment, more and more opportunities. And so the world gets you're pulling your entire environment because you're just working on, I'm going to do it. That's where you have to constantly be humble enough to go, am I? It doesn't mean you can be in the middle of full out blown firefights and be on autopilot. going through many different scenarios. Project managers are a prime example. Foremen are a project, anybody in leadership is just, their day-to-day seems like it's a firefight and they're almost always reacting. Even in those tasks, they're going through the same motions that their experiences taught them. Now, the humble ones take it in and they use that thing called wisdom that you only get through the forging, which means you have to have adversity in life to get. And those are the ones that are sitting back going, oh, I've learned this lesson. I'm not going to say this word sequence this way. I'm going to set the contract this way on my next contract so that I'm not in that position ever again. And I'm applying my wisdom. Oh, I've been down this road. Here's that bump in the road. Seen it many times. That's wisdom. Now, wisdom are the ones that go, I'm not doing it the same way 4 times in a row. Your boy over here, I call myself 4 or 5. If I'm doing something, usually depending on the level of threat, is it for a big company? Well, then I try to narrow this down, and this isn't the case. But if it's me doing something on my own and I'm like building something or working on a project, I will literally do the same thing 3 and 4 times in a row. It's like the Marine taking the hill. You don't give up on taking the hill. You just run up it again and again and again and again. That doesn't maybe have that whole wisdom thing that we're talking about. Again, trying to share the message with you so that hopefully you're not as late of a bloomer and that something here sticks about, oh, I see what you mean. There's times when it's good to try it again, and there's times to be smart enough to go, okay, I've made that mistake that way. I'm not doing that ever again. I know the outcome. I'm Mr. Kelly Lawson, and I'm smart enough to make it work. That's ego. Again, one of the demons. There he is. Hopefully I can get good on the footage. Boom! The demons! One of the last tactical takeaways is don't just ask, what should I do? Ask, what would the wisest version of me do? When you're in those situations and your cortisol levels are up and your face is flushed and your heart's racing a little bit and you're almost on the verge of anxiety in your chest and it's like you've got high caffeine but you haven't drank any caffeine and you're just your hands and you're doing this. Take a huge deep breath, 4 or 5, because that's exactly how you have a stroke, a heart attack, have a full anxiety attack, a meltdown. There's so many things that sequence real easily from right there, and all it takes is a few more things and you're having you could lose it and lose complete control of your whole situation. And that's why they say take the 10 deep breaths no matter what to calm the storm. Separate yourself mentally and look at yourself and say, without emotion, what would the wisest version of me do? What would the wisest version of take a moment, and the natural inside answer, that's wisdom in the universe. I'm learning now in the Bible, that's a thing. It's like, the Holy Spirit, wisdom's a thing. And so when wisdom hits, it hits honestly and truthfully. You will have your answer. You can't apply ego and you can't apply logic. So when you ask yourself that's your initial, not with the ego. That's what it says. Don't ask, what should I do? Ask, what would the wisest version of... Read 1 proverb daily. It's a little challenge for you. Challenge. Can you read 1 proverb daily? Each has a mental trigger: how to lead, how to listen, and how to delay gratification. Use the Proverbs to help you with your decision matrix, your decision tree. Does this decision show prudence? And is this plan built on good counsel or ego? So am I doing this based off of ego, or am I doing this because we thought it out, or I thought it out very deeply? In Section 3, wisdom from general. The battlefield reveals wisdom, or the lack of it. General Patton once said, a good plan, violently executed now, is better than a perfect plan next week. Translation: wisdom isn't just about knowing. It's about doing. Decisiveness beats delay. As with General Patton, clarity plus momentum equals perfection. Great leaders build operational tempo. He was known for operational tempos. And one of the things, if you study the Patton histories on how he led with a full out, we're going into the finish line and we're getting there tomorrow. There was none of this stop. And he hit people so fast, the enemy, they couldn't regroup. And there was huge strategy in that, because if the military they're fighting isn't dug in super well, they're not ready to embrace that, they're not organized to defend that, they don't have the same ethos of scrap that we do, you can run over people and they get reeling and they can't come back around. So his style of leadership or strategic command, and the part that we're taking is not the brashness of them, not the silver polished, the model that had all of, the richest guy in the military, not the super ego, that he had on him, who knew he wasn't going to die, so he was good. This guy was a superego bred for that moment for World War II. And he was absolutely bred for that moment. There was quite a few generals in history, as you go through your military campaigns, in World War II specifically, when humanity had a different ethos at the time, and therefore the value system they actually believed in a lot more. That war was perfectly set up for a Patton. The closest we had to that is Mathis, is someone that can just really, General Stormin Norman Schwarzkopf. He was also one when we were allowed to greenlight. But anymore military, we're so restricted by rules, we're not just allowed to greenlight and go smash them, unlike Israel. General Patton once said, "A good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan next week." Translation, wisdom isn't about knowing, it's about doing. Decisiveness beats delay. Having an operational workflow, it's better to make a mistake sometimes and keep it moving and keep the ball in it and adjust from that than to not do anything ever because you're afraid of making the mistake. Life throws us. It's our journey. That's why we're seeking wisdom, to navigate those as best as possible. And when they come, we don't turn on each other. We do it right. It was our decisions made with good wisdom, discernment, these kind of value systems to help us make those snap decisions. Those snap decisions, even with a frustrated coworker or a co-partner in life, this is coming back again. We have to use our wisdom. Our wisdom is, I've been in this scenario multiple times. I'm not going to say this because I know the response. I'm not going to say that or act this way or act that way. I know the response. Learning from our lessons. So many of us don't. So many of us make the same mistakes again and again. That's because we're relying on autopilot a lot of times. Our minds are not in our tradecraft. That's when you know you're not doing the right tradecraft if you're on autopilot. You should be constantly growing every day and dealing with these situations and becoming better and using them as you grow. And then sometimes they just show up again and we deal with it, but we don't let it get to us nearly as impactful. Eisenhower famously said, "Plans are useless, but planning is indispensable." That's the essence of adaptability. Don't cling to the original blueprint. Adapt when new intel comes in. A tactical takeaway right here is that's where your feedback loops come into play. A tactical feedback loop, like the military's after-action review, what was supposed to happen, what actually happened, what can we learn for the next time? In the business world, it's red team reviews. You know, we've already put our bid out, we lost our bid. Now, if you're doing it right, you go back and you say, okay, where did we lose our bid? Look at the numbers, look at the winners, see where their numbers were, and go, okay, how is this possible if you choose to take the time to do that? Or a project is complete. What were some of our lessons learned? We don't want to deal with that subcontractor, or if we do, this is how we want to manage that subcontractor because it cost us a tremendous amount of time, which ultimately cost us money. Takeaways from your feedback loops. So many people don't even have a feedback loop. Life is the feedback loop. That's pretty reactive. That's a high stress, high anxiety, lack of control kind of world. Life is most challenging enough. This is why we got to be better so we can get ahead so that when those things do happen, we're not already in the hole 8 ways from Sunday. We can handle that, and it's just minimally impactful depending on scenario. But our experience and our wisdom should allow the impact to still always be minimal on how it affects us. And that's wisdom in leadership, and in leadership in everything, whether you're the head of your family, the head of your business, or just a coworker. I like this saying that I picked up from General Mathis, United States Marine Corps. He lived by this: engage your brain before you engage your weapon. Leaders, take note. Wisdom is measured in how you react under pressure. You want to be a commander, not a cowboy. One of the expansion points from this wisdom from generals section that I picked up is I read the Sun Tzu. I actually did the Audible book. It's really quick. Definitely, if you've been intimidated by reading it, and it was harder for me to read, I spent years trying to read that. And as soon as I'd get a paragraph in, I'd wander off in my head for 4 hours thinking about what that concept meant. That book actually did that to me because it was that deep. It was like literally like watching the chessboard open up on different levels. If you have a hard time reading that one, I would highly recommend the Audible version of it when you're driving or flying, because it reads a lot faster. You can get through it. Grab a notebook, because there's going to be things in there that you're going to want to write down and go, okay, this is something I can apply for my relationships with, my coworkers, whatever that dynamic may be. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. He said, the wise general wins before the battle is fought. Preparation is what that dialogue is about. Planning isn't just for control, it's for psychological clarity under stress. And about, you look at Patton, you're like, okay, well, you open this military section with Patton, you threw the good speech up in the video, and this guy literally ran across Africa, did Sicily, did Italy, just ran all the way up there, was going straight to Hitler, then they pulled him off because he slapped a guy, used him in England, used him as a decoy, which worked out to our advantage quite a bit there in history. And he got him back in the fight again when everything else was wrong and they had no choice but to bring that dude back into the game. They brought him back and then boom, he comes through and does what he does. He was designed for that style of military. The thing that I would like to emphasize here is the takeaway for all of us mortals out there. His sense of drive. There's some tremendous value there when you study the military generals. You could look at, was he probably a good leader of men? He's hard to work for. He was a hard ass. He was definitely a hard ass. And, he don't dwarf his glory. He was definitely egotistical. He had he would be a hard one to work for if you were an aggressive go-getter that was just as accomplished. But being around him, you're going to be in the fire. You're going to be around that stuff that builds your legend. So what can you endure? What can you put up with for your greater good? Or the greater good in that sense of the country. The takeaway is that drive is the 90-hour weeks obsessing on the YouTube video because you have a dream that you want to make it. I'm not at 90. Okay, I'm not implying myself, but that level of commitment in anything you're doing, you crush the game. That, no matter where you're at on this planet, no matter what culture, I have found this doesn't matter. You can be in a communist country. If you have that drive, you're going to succeed. I've seen it firsthand. If they have that drive, I have never seen anyone not succeed. Now, their journey may be extremely bumpy. They had the knowledge and then the discipline to work, but maybe they lack the wisdom to not make the water so rough along the way. This is where I'm trying to get better because I could do the whole impose it, work it, do the 90s, but I make everybody upset because I'm aggro and aggressive because I'm not content and I'm forcing something, and I'm also probably not doing exactly my passion piece. But even your passion piece, you can only handle 90-hour, 80-hour work weeks for so long. Well, that's the difference. The Pattons of the world did it for decades. Decades. I mean, he lived it up. He was a baller, so he was the richest man in the military. The dude would go on yachts and go do polo and do all that stuff when they were back in the rear with the gear. And then the next morning at 5 a.m. take everybody on a 150-mile march. Full boots, good, not allowed to drink a drip of water. He was hard. But then he'd go out on his horses and do his thing. And then they would break the glass that says, in case of war, break that glass. And off he would go. And then there was another glass over there that was always broken, and that was Chesty Puller's. Oof. Ooh, that glass was always broken. We'll get into him later. That's a whole episode in itself when I pay the respect to the man on that one. That's the one I really look forward to doing. We talked about some wisdom from the generals. We talked a little bit about Patton because he's just his operational flow, how his drivenness to obstacles and to missions just make it happen. And like he said, I don't want the perfect plan. I'm just going to start doing it. Yeah, that's the journey. A lot of us get wrapped down and bogged into the mud about analysis paralysis. Hence, these shows are a perfect example because I'm translating it for you. They're a metaphor for life, just like boxing, is you're watching me suck at certain things and not be good at certain things. And now, you're seeing little developments. Eisenhower famously said, plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. That's the essence of adaptability. Don't cling to your original blueprint. Adapt when new intel comes in. Leaders, take note. Wisdom is measured in how you react under pressure. You want to be a commander, not a cowboy. Emotional control, use of wisdom, and tapping into the knowledge. Next section 4, is going to be wisdom from business leaders. Between the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett teaches us that the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. Say no to what distracts you from your mission. Stay in your lane. This is super hard for me. Because I'm an ADD guy. I'm literally taking in information from everywhere. And my companies are literally in all lanes. When you do quality control and processes, in process refinement, all industries, you're in everything. But then in those everythings, you can start going, okay, well, now I'm doing training, I'm doing inspections, I'm doing, now I'm doing, there's so much. What do you train? There's so many topics on training. It it just gets more and more and more. Stay in your lane. What makes you money? Well, right now I'm just trying to survive and do my thing, grow my company. Everything makes me money. I'm going after everything. Okay. And then now you got more work than you have yourself to do. So you got to hire people, but not enough work for them. So you can't hire the people. Now you're capped. Stay in your lane. Maybe your lane might be a better consultant making more money than training. Or maybe it's just training and nothing else. Stay in your lane, defining that as quickly as possible. That really helps us in this life. Jeff Bezos says, be stubborn on vision, flexible on details. That's strategic wisdom. Anchor your vision, but pivot on the plan. Peter Drucker hit hard with this. There's nothing so useless as doing efficiently what shouldn't be done at all. Oh, that's spoken like an owner. So many people that are just workers in this life, they do tasks just because they got to do tasks that fill the day. But was it bringing value? Was it adding a detail? Or was it just something in your daily list to say that you were busy? A lot of folks are guilty of that. So here's your check-in. Are you grinding without clarity? What is the purpose of your grind? Meaning, okay, you're working a full-time job, you're hustling there, you're making your money, you're saving. What's the purpose of it? Do you have a goal? Well, my goal is to have as much money as when I retire. Okay, how are you sabotaging that? What do you mean by sabotaging? Are you making a bunch of unnecessary expenses? Well, what does unnecessary mean? And now you're going down the road of justification. That's what they mean by it. Grinding without clarity. If your goal is to have $2 million in the account by the time you're 30, you best not be buying RVs along the way unless you're selling them and flipping them and making money on them. Because you're just going to drive it 4 or 5 times a year, if that, and it's a $150,000 asset just sitting there depreciating quick as can be. You're losing a fortune on those things. Got to have the boat. There, bring on another 1,000. You want to fly in the plane? There's another couple 100,000. All of this extra expenses. If you grind with clarity. Now, if your clarity includes that in your grind, I have a 10% budget for gambling. We won't judge whether you should gamble or not, but I know people that do that. They ball that well. They're like, okay, I've got a $50,000 a month, gambling budget. This is here in Alaska. 50,000 is what he's like. That's what he's allowed to spend, by his accountant or something like this. Has access to, and he can do whatever he wants with it in place. It's budgeted. Roger that. He can afford it. Okay. So again, grinding with clarity. Before he was at that, he was sacrificing working 100-hour work weeks, training his team and building his empire. Now that he's successful and been successful for multiple decades, he can enjoy the fruits of his labor. And that's the struggle is, do I want to up it from 50 to 75 next year? I really should wonder about that. 75,000 a month, not a year. Yeah, baller. Okay, so are you grinding without clarity? Clarity would be the guy that's an up-and-coming business that's trying to buy assets and needs equipment, and he's leveraged to the max with his credit, but he wants to go out and be a baller with said other dude and go to the poker houses. That's not clarity. That's being a dumbass. You need to be home with your family, maintaining a chill, getting a good night's sleep, packing your morning routine in order, getting your lunch, getting your day set, and setting yourself up to succeed so you don't have an anxiety breakdown because you woke up late, because you were up all night, because you were winning, right? Again, clarity. Are your systems wise or just busy? And audit your business and your life. Make wisdom the first filter. I say this every year and they call it spring cleaning. Why do you spring clean your house? Because it's been all winter long cooped up, right? We're opening it up, we're airing it out, we're cleaning the windows, we're cleaning the house, we're getting rid of all the dirt. This is a good thing to do. You have to do this with yourself. Do I use it, touch it, or play with it? It goes, gets sold, or is donated. Your house gets cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. Your anxiety goes down, down, down. Expansion points on wisdom from the business leaders quotes. And this is, again, we're just touching on this stuff. We got decades to work through deeper on this. Steve Jobs' intuition. Simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean. That's very true. That is very true. Simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean. One can take that in so many different directions. You could take that, as far as what you think about sin-wise, that takes up a lot of time in your life. Negative thoughts or, other thoughts that are not productive, bringing value. All right. Keeping your thinking clean. Clean. Not trying to screw the next guy on the dollar on this. How can you make as much as humanly possible? Keep your thoughts clean. Be fair. Wisdom is the skill of eliminating noise. In business, it means clarity on product, message, team, and message. Eliminating noise. That noise is all of the distractions, the doubts, the conversations, the what ifs, the anxieties, the people with the bad coffee that day, no coffee that day, all of the noise of life, right? Wisdom is the skill of eliminating that noise, understanding how it can just go away and you don't even hear it. You don't even hear it. Now that has some value. Let's address that. Howard Schultz from Starbucks said, grow big, but stay small in heart. Wisdom and growth is scaling systems without killing your soul. Small in heart. So if growing your company is tearing you apart, we need to come up with a different line of work. You need to figure out something else than just that. There's other ways to get to your end game. It can't kill your soul because you take it out on everyone around you, firstly yourself. You know, the whole heart attack stress thing. Tactical takeaways from wisdom from business leaders is build with first principles. Instead of copying competitors, ask what's actually true about our market, people, and timing. Every quarter review what's profitable but not wise. Toxic clients, vanity marketing, burnout culture. Burnout culture is huge in construction. What do you do for that? Use a wisdom audit for decisions. This is something that most people won't do because they won't take the time to actually reflect deep enough. Is this driven by ego, fear, or principle? So when you have your conversations and you play back things that went bad in a relationship or just were a challenging moment, that's one of the things you're doing is a wisdom audit. Okay, how could I handle that a little differently? I had that level of inflection on my voice, that level of tone on my voice. Wisdom now has taught me that every time I've spoken that way, I sounded defensive and highly aggressive. So now we have that wisdom on it. We won't do that no more. We'll soften our tone and we'll be able to make a rebuttal from a calmer place, not a jacked up, ready to fight place. Control wisdom. That's what this is coming down to. This is why this week's episode was this. On wisdom from business leaders, we're going to now key into some boxing. I like to start bringing in some boxing. That was truly my essence and my background and who I am at roots is a nice 1930s fighter. Just put us in the ring, Mick. But I didn't like to get hit, so I was more like the current age. I like to move, shuck and jive. Boxing is a brutal teacher and a beautiful metaphor in life. It applies in so many spectrums across the way. A lot like Jocko does with jiu-jitsu. Boxers have their version because it's exactly the same. Muhammad Ali once said, the fight is won or lost far away from witnesses, in the gym and behind the line. How we train before the big moment. That's where you win or lose. That's wisdom. Preparation and silence too is really important. And the Bible talks about this over and over and over. Be quiet. The inside voice is really downfalling our world. People don't have a filter on their mouths. They don't have the wisdom to not say the words. They're saying things. There's a reason why they're saying that. Prepare in silence. Soon as you voice something, you're bringing that to you. Episode 3, Hypocrite. Soon as I talked about not eating bad, guess what I started doing? Eating bad. Okay, again, prepare in silence. When you go and you start losing your weight, don't start posting it on Facebook. You will curse yourself today. You will have more cookies and more vices showing up in your path because you put it out to the universe. Prepare in silence. Train, forge, Rocky Balboa #4 in the mountains. Nobody knew what he was doing. Well, they did. They had spies out there watching him. But we get the point. He wasn't making a big noise. It wasn't the big show like Apollo Creed. We saw what happened there. It didn't go well for him.
The referee tries to step in and he's thrown across the ring. Throw him down! I've never seen Apollo take so much punishment. Throw him down! No!
If he dies,
He does.
Mike Tyson said it best. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Those are profound words because wisdom is resilience, not just surviving the hit, but learning from it. In Tyson's case, surviving it was rather hard to do, especially at prime Tyson when he was the wrecking machine of wrecking machines. Good Lord, you could not look away. When he fought Jake Paul, it had that excitement. I gotta say, I don't care what the world says. I don't care that it was rigged. I don't give a damn. It is the first time since he fought Holyfield that you were like, oh my God, it's happening. I don't care if the man's 172 years old. Man, it's happening. He's getting in the ring. Oh, he's got a rocker. Oh, no, he's got the cane. He's getting in there. Man, I am telling you, that's the mystique. Decades and we're still on the edge of our seats like this dude is that. That transcends. Surviving that initial, good luck on that. A lot like when you lose employees at your work. Oh crap, how do I survive it? Well, how do we learn from it and then how to endure it if we have to? This is that boxing metaphor. I've been on the ropes. Boom, boom, boom. Life is throwing it at me. Ooh, kicking shot. That one hurt. Got it. Ooh, I can take it. I can take it. And so I said, okay, what do I need to do? How can I be smarter? What will wisdom bring me here? Because don't I need toughness if all I'm doing is taking everything? I've been taking everything my whole life. I know I can take it. I need the wisdom to slide on back and let that punch blow by, get on off them ropes, slide out to the other side and be like, all right, let's breathe here and then take that jab with you. Joe Frazier said, you can map out a fight plan, but when the action starts, it may not go that way. Then you're down to your reflexes. Train your reflexes to be wise under fire. Habits take over. How we do one is how we do them all, which is why culture of excellence, our routine, all of these are, we're stacking these habits so that when we get under fire, we already know the right's coming. I'm ducking underneath it. I'm pivoting out. I'm off them ropes. I'm already in southpaw. Hey, take this strong lead left with you now. Habits kick in. It happens beyond thought. But your form is right. And when I slid underneath, the hand went up, not down. So you don't get caught in the face. Boom, underneath, slide around. Habits. When the phone rings and things go negative. Oh, Lord, okay. Habits. I'm not going to explode and show a bunch of emotionality right now. Even though this employee who's just delivering the message, they don't need to see that I care like that. Roger that. They need to see leadership, mission. Back to the generals. Mathis. General Mathis was me. You didn't see him get upset. Just everyone died around him. So how you handle it. All right, train your reflexes to be wise under fire, not emotionally unstable. That's so important, to not flare, to set back and do nothing, to not say anything and to just reflect. Okay, what would the best version of me do in this scenario to handle this? Not what I'm going to say right now. And I'm thinking this in my head. Words aren't coming out. This is in your head. What would the best version of me do right here? All right, he would do this, 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 and this, and this. Roger that. Just like your morning list. What am I doing today? I'm role-playing the day out. This, 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 and this. Roger that. Same thing with life throws. It's how we do one is how we do them all. Emergency management is the same way. You don't know what the emergency is. We just have to manage it. What's going to happen? Where's it at? Let's mob. Here's where we go. This, 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 this. We stick to the plans. We train the plans. This, this, this. Teddy Atlas reminded us the best fighters aren't just tough. They're smart. They know when to engage, when to clinch, and when to back off. That's super important. You just can't always engage on a Mike Tyson. That may not work out. It worked out pretty darn good for Holyfield because he knew exactly how to engage and when to engage. But he also knew when to hold him.
As soon as he hit him, he's going to take his time. He's so clean right hand. A straight
early brawling tan up, quick right uppercut. The crowd
never been able to do it. It might be something different.
That's the game. He's got to settle down into ring up the top of Tyson's head.
When they get close, tie him up for sure and tie him up right away.
But what he wants, a sort of boxing match rather than just. Holyfield comes back with a left hook. Tyson to Tyson's head.
The soybean front, and it's going to be one shot.
Close a lot. We're going to land by Tyson that left. He's put order. He's put as we hit. By Tyson.
Slips to the side. Well, actually, we got
no intended several times in round one. But Tyson was able to duck.
Kind of smart. He's
swinging a miss by Tyson.
The strength of Mike Tyson. He can't fight inside with Mike.
Into the body with a right up. But it was warded off.
What about before? Smart.
Fighting the fight.
He's tiring.
And Stanfield. Tyson around. I'll tell you what, the crowd thought that Mike was hurt.
Grab onto a brother, squeeze real tight, headbutt him real quick, then slide, and then push him, then maybe elbow him once on the way out just for good measure. But because he's Holyfield and he wears 4:13, Philippians 4:13 on his trunks, thou shalt. I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. He got away with a lot of headbutts because of that. Man, the whole religious thing really helped him. Ooh, elbows, headbutts. Bad business. And he had a thick skull, Holy. So that was the value of knowing when to clinch. Holyfield was wise. That's why he won twice. He did it in a way that made him so mad he got his ear bit off in the process. But he knew when to engage. Shouldn't have clinched in that scenario because he lost an ear for it. He probably should have backed off and did some fighting. But that's the parallel. You know, in this life, we have to know when to come in, when to rotate, when to hold, when to move away, and when to just be like, we're done with it. Wisdom, using our experience. Something I really like from one of my favorite boxers is Bernard Hopkins. I mean, this guy fought until his 50s. And one of the things he said is wisdom is preservation with purpose. Fighting long by fighting smart. By the time he got out of prison, he was already, I think, in his late 20s, early 30s. He had learned discipline in there because it's a little bit tougher of a game in boxing in prison. When he went pro, he already had, back to what we talked about with earlier about having the right technique, the muscle memory, how you train. He trained, keep his hands down, hands up, chin down, keep that angle on him, keep bladed, rotate, and he would box in a way that he could shift fights, and he never went out looking to finish you in the first couple rounds. He was known as being the executioner. He would finish everyone. He would break you down over time, no matter how young of a Thundercat you are, because earlier they might be reflexively faster. They might be a little stronger than you in those first 5 or 6 rounds. They might be more explosive than you. They might have quicker reflexes than you. Well, it sounds like a pretty rough kick. And he beat everyone. Thundercats, Olympians, badasses, icons. I mean, he destroyed Trinidad, which is a Puerto Rican icon. Destroyed his ass. And how he did it? Systematically breaking him down. If you watch the fight and you look at it over and over, you'll see him smacking his ass cheek. Trinidad was a marathon runner. You're not going to get him tired. You can't break him down in 15 rounds, or I think they were fighting 12s. Not going to happen. He's too strong for that. And he's a bigger puncher than you by a damn sight. So you got a guy that's in better shape than you, stronger than you, longer than you, faster than you. And he came in, Hopkins was naturally a little bit bigger of a guy. So he had the size thing going for him, but not on the punching power, because Trinidad was one of those super explosive ultimate finishers. He was a high percentage knockout guy. So this was a fight that it was like Hopkins should lose on points at the minimum or get knocked out along the way. He finished him. Why? He hit that ass cheek. He took away his legs. Hey, coach, why are my legs not going? Hey, why am I so tired? Why is it not working? That's translated from Puerto Rican, of course. Every word for word. I'm sure that was exactly what it was. His legs quit working. He lost his power and his explosivity on his left hook, which took away most of his weaponry. He was known for finishing cats with the left hook, and then the right coming right after, which was like the icing on the cake. He took that out, which now it didn't land with impact, and he couldn't get his right off. Hopkins was right inside, bang left hooks, move, rotate him around. And as soon as he would try to set strong to hit that left. His left ass cheek was gone, so when he dropped in to hit the left hook, didn't work. Didn't have the rate of impact, didn't have the delivery, and didn't have the speed. All from a systematic breakdown of inside on the clinch, hit the ass cheek. And the ref was standing back here, never seen it the whole time. And that was just one speck of the wisdom used in that fight. There was probably multiple other areas of strategy that wisdom was like, okay, let's try this, let's try that. He would fight guys, and this is why I really like him, and it's wisdom with preservation of purpose. Every fight, every project, whether it's a house build, a remodel, a car, it doesn't matter what you do, a project building your shed, was with a purpose. Wasn't trying to race to get it done as fast as humanly possible. Wasn't trying to do that. He knew he had this much time. If you budget your time and you're disciplined about your approach, no issues, we'll just get right down to this. And when things go wrong, we'll adapt on that. And he did. He would adapt. Some fighters would come out, it wouldn't do it, and he would take him 2 or 3 rounds, and you can watch him downloading and processing. And then he'd start doing subtle shifts where he'd step to the right before he threw every time. Well, now the guy's, it's coming from a different line, and he doesn't know how to defend, and he's turning unnaturally into him. And so now you started seeing the systematic breakdown. And it was super subtle over 7, 8 rounds. The preservation with purpose, fight long by fighting smart, If you go back and watch those fights and you look at the later rounds, you will see so many of the athletes talking to their coaches about, I don't know why I'm tired. I don't know why I can't move. I don't know, because he was systematically, boom, there's a hip. Boom, there's an arm punching the bone so you don't have anything on your left hook, just kind of like the Muay Thai guys do with the leg kicks. High-level boxers are breaking down the whole anatomy as you're going because you're not trying to win fast. I'm here for the evening. I'm here for a while. We got fans. They got popcorn. They flew in. I mean, it's a thing. So I'm going to break you down and let the world see my magnificence for as long as humanly possible. Allow the sponsors a little more opportunity right here. Boom, boom, patreon.com. Okay, so anyways, that's why Bernard Hopkins is one of my favorites, because he exemplifies, if you are going to follow and watch him from a leadership standpoint, watch what to do in this life. His career was a straight up testament. Only person alive that is so disciplined, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't do any of the bad stuff, would have training camps in Miami, Florida, not care. It might as well have been Wyoming, just like the weather down there. The distraction, non-factor. Not even an issue. Moving on. That focus. Well, just like Patton, when you're truly driven and focused, you will succeed. For us mortals, we say, okay, how do we at least work towards that? And that's what these podcasts are doing. That's exactly what they're doing. It's like, oh, okay, I'm seeing where he's going with this now. These podcasts are illuminating all of us to just where we can improve and we can all grow. And then as they morph and we start bringing on our people in later episodes, you'll start seeing how this applies, because now I'll be able to interview and we'll be able to have the foundation that you guys, all 7 or 8 of you that are listening, are going to watch this cool growth together. Back to the boxing for tactical takeaways. And we've talked about this with our morning routines and other episodes, and it's just, you see this again and again and again, and I don't know how many times you're going to need to hear it before you make it your life. Build habits now that protect you later. Think resting, discipline, reps, and mindset. Spirituality strengthening, all of this. What are you doing habit-wise to set yourself up for success? Not for being reactive, which so many of us are in this life, and we use every justification and excuse. Are you swinging wild or picking your shots with strategy? And then when things go wrong, are you actually being able to use your wisdom to know how to get out of the scenario to turn it back around as quickly as possible? So the boxing analogy out of that is exactly that. Preparation is key. Staying calm and under fire is key. Using wisdom to have done your work in advance, to have the knowledge to reduce all of the anxiety and the factors that could go wrong. Having the plan, the hard part. Sticking to the plan, and when the plan goes bad, having the ability to adapt on the fly. The generals and the boxers are very similar here. As we go into some closing reflections, wisdom doesn't shout, it whispers. It's super subtle, and it's quick to just be quiet. It shows up in quiet decisions, in restraint, in thoughtfulness. Wisdom never shows up when you're screaming and being loud and being emotional. In King James Bible, James 1:5 says, "If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God." Not YouTube, not Twitter. Go to the source. Ask God. Wisdom will always be granted. You just have to genuinely want it and then follow certain rules to get it. It will come. Little bit of discipline and being humble and open, wisdom will come. In my case, it's like a thimble. This much. Like that's the cap of a plastic water bottle. Like, this is how I feel now, and I'm almost 50 years old, but since I've been asking for wisdom, some days I feel like he gave me a small drop out of there, and some days it's like, okay, here you go, you get the cap. But guess what? If you don't ask for it, you don't get any of it. Here's your challenge for this week. Ask better questions when you communicate with anyone or anything around you. Take a moment. How can I ask a better question? How can I phrase this differently without embarrassing and embittering? Practice a daily wisdom rep. That could be reading Proverbs. It could be studying, reading, reflecting, and seeking feedback. Wisdom reps. Choose one area, business, relationship, and leadership, and apply at least one piece of wisdom deliberately. Thank you for joining me on Seeking Wisdom. Subscribe, share with someone who needs this, and remember, the wise man doesn't always speak, but when he does, his words shape futures. I'm your host, Kelly Lawson, and thank you very much for watching today. You have a blessed day.